Citizens of the world watching this video right now or listening to this podcast, as you can see by what we're wearing, we are very serious folks. And that means we may seriously say some serious words. If you don't like serious words or your children don't like serious words, this is not the podcast for you. If you love serious words and reef keeping information, you're in the right place. Welcome to Reef Beef. Today on Reef Beef, we are going to be talking about some books that we like. We are going to be talking about some problems Ben has had with a KH-Gaurdian. We're going to talk about cleaning pumps. This episode is sponsored by saltwateraquarium.com, Champion Lighting, and powered by PolypLab. Welcome to the Reef of Beef. Benjamin.
Richardo.
How are you doing this week?
I'm pretty good because I don't have a cold anymore.
You don't have a cold? What did you do to get rid of the cold? Did you take ivermectin?
I had a salt crystal and I prayed to Jesus.
Don't those cancel each other out?
They did, and I think that's why I got better.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. Not better enough to give a crap about your backdrop. I love that there's, what is that, a bed now? Are you in your...
I record in my son's room, so that's a Spider-Man poster.
Excellent. I like that we can see its junk.
Yeah.
Spider junk.
Spider junk.
What's going on in your reefing world?
It's cold and rainy here, so just fun time working in the coldness. I had a client that I cleaned his aquarium for about a year and a half, and I had to say he was a pretty competent fellow, nice looking reef tank, but I helped guide him with a bunch of things. So there came a point where he said, hey, I got it now, and let me try to do it, see what I can do.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah.
And
he's also the guy that had the really crazy mushrooms, the dark purple and green striped big mushrooms. But anyway, so it's been a couple months, and out of the blue, he contacted me and he was like, I want to do a consultation. So him and I have an agreement where he can call in a consultation as long as it lands on his day. I'll come out there. He just gives me cash for just talking to him.
Right on.
So I get out there and he's like, pretty sure I have a problem. And I noticed right away before he started talking, nothing looked crazy pissed, but everything looked a little withdrawn. And he has a KH-Gaurdian on his tank, which in the beginning, it's like he wanted me to become the KH-Gaurdian expert. And I was like, I don't, you got the KH-Gaurdian, and it's something you're going to have to watch over and be good with. So it's just like a lot of the alkalinity monitors. In my opinion, from a maintenance company standpoint, a little complicated to be dicking around with that while you're trying to do maintenance if it's not cooperating. So that's why I'm iffy on those. Not too long ago, he had gotten 2 new pH probes and put them on there and calibrated it and this and that. So I don't know what it was doing, but the first thing I checked was, because I made him buy a Tropic Marin alkalinity tester, titration tester. First thing I did was grab that and just double check. And I'm glad it was the first parameter that I checked, because, I don't really carry, I'm not in love with testing, so I don't carry around some like master test kit. So I test his KH 12, DKH 12. So I was like, okay, I dump it, test it again, 12. And then, it was kind of funny, Richard, because since you and I do the podcast, I kind of have like access to you. So I was like, let me get 2 heads on this. Because first off, I was like, man, in my head, I was like, I always deal with people not having enough alkalinity. It's been barely any times that I've ever dealt with someone having too much alkalinity. So I called you, and you and I talked for a little bit, because I was like, what do I do? I mean, 12 isn't like insanity, but obviously his corals were showing me that they didn't appreciate it. But I was like, man, do some weird stuff to pull it back down. And you talked to me about that. You talked to me about using 10% muriatic, but I knew I was just there for consultation. I wasn't going to be there for 6 hours, and I wasn't going to tell him to jack with muriatic on his tank.
No, don't.
You know, the cool thing is this was only like 4 or 5 days ago. So the decision was made between me and the guy, and it was something you had mentioned to me. It was just, you know, hey, one of the things is leave it alone and let the tank do what it does and just pull the alkalinity down. This became a really cool experiment to me because I don't run any KH, you know, automatic KH things. So I got to see what this guy's, I had him test every day and then not call me, but text me with the result every day because I was going to be there with him as it comes down. It literally came down a point a day. It was real interesting. So basically his alkalinity consumption is about a point of DKH per day. And it's already, so what he decided to do, and this might be controversial with some of the watchers, he felt like the beefers.
The watchers. I like watchers. The watchers.
You ought to, the watchers.
Controversy among the watchers.
Among the beefers. Well, he decided that for him, the KH-Gaurdian was too fucking complicated. And so I wasn't going to argue with him. It's him taking care of the tank. And he already had a Chimera X1 and a doser, and he already had the Tropic Marin titration kit. And I was like, man, you know what I do? Because in beefers, you got to understand, we're all over the place. You know, some people like to do all the complicated machinery. From a maintenance standpoint, I have to keep things simplified. So I just like doing a doser, and I like, you know, checking it by hand. And I like to come up slowly and sneak up on the DKH. That I don't need it to be that complicated. And so him and I made a decision. We hooked it up for him. I calibrated the X1 for him. And then I put in the program how much I wanted to start. His tank needed to start with 20 mils a day. And then so he's testing the DKH every day and writing it down and then texting me. So we watched it. It dropped exactly over the course of 5 days or so, a point a day. And then he asked me, well, when do you want me to turn this thing on? And I said 9, because I wanted to end up in 8 and I wanted to catch it, you know, as it sort of came down and came up. And he's just already telling me like he's super happy about it because first of all, he thought his tank was about to get wrecked. And we basically, you and me basically saved his tank. And it was a good call on his part to bring me out there for the consultation. Because it's possible that his tank was just going to keep climbing and just fall off the cliff. So it's already at 8 today.
Was the KH-Gaurdian, was he using that to dose with?
Yes, and that's the scary part.
So it was automatically dosing?
Yes.
So he set up the Guardian, assumed it was working, never kind of did a reality check on that, and then was adding and adding and adding too much because the Guardian thought it was 8, but it was 12.
The part that I was not comfortable not being a part of the scene anymore is because I would say, you know, he'd show me on his phone because the KH-Gaurdian's weird. It'll show you 2 readings and both of them say pH, but I'm like, one of those is DKH. I don't know why they're both labeled pH. And he didn't know what the fuck. So what I'm saying is like, I never like adopted the machine and got all that comfortable with it, and neither did he. And I had told him, I said, dude, if you're not going to be intimate with that machine, don't run it.
Yeah. Is he still running it now?
Turned it off.
It would have been interesting to just leave it alone and see what the readings do as you guys adjust it, but it's too late for that. And it's also unimportant. Just would have been interesting to me. Not that it would have been a good thing to have that info or not.
Well, if you're in the Houston area, he's putting it on Facebook Marketplace and he's getting rid of it.
I will give him shipping for it.
I think he'll probably want a few hundred for it.
It's
interesting. You know, interesting enough, you know, I had gotten him onto Tropic Marin all for Reef, dosing it for his tank, and that's what it was dosing. But then a week later, I read in its literature, only use with a 2-part solution because that's what this machine is calibrated for.
What
and
only use what with 2-part solution?
The KH-Gaurdian.
Oh, I don't even know if we should even begin to pretend like we're trying to figure out what the Guardian does.
But here's the issue, and I'm not trying to poop on anybody, but he called the owner and said, hey, I'm using Alpha Reef with this. And he said, oh yeah, a lot of people are doing it. So I don't know, overly complicated machine that the client didn't get intimate enough with. Just
The
ran the
owner
numbers
is
up.
the owner's overseas, right?
Yeah, in Singapore.
Yeah, man. I the only reason I went to a controller ever was because I knew that Neptune Systems was in driving distance. And this is when I got the Classic, and there were problems with when you've updated the firmware, bricking it, and then you had to send it in. And I thought, I don't want to deal with that, but they're close enough that I can drive there.
Yeah.
And I see people getting, stuff where it's hard to get, and complicated stuff. So if you have a problem, you're just in trouble. So I'm always leery of using devices where the quality control and the help desk is in another country, because it can be hard to get to it.
I mean, imagine having a Trident and just not putting in, and I'm not pooping on the client, but I am truly saying, imagine getting a complicated piece of machinery and not getting super comfortable with it.
I can't imagine that.
And then to the point of even that machine then is then saying, hey, this is what the DKH is, and then, hey, let's squirt this liquid in, and you're just like, hey, what does that do? I don't really know. Dude, don't.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was going to say that, when people do that, when people get phones and refrigerators and TVs and stuff, but people don't learn those either. So,
this sort of shows my age, but I think back of like programming the VCR to record that program, or those
very hard to
remotes,
do. Yeah. You have to figure it out.
And the VCR is always blinking 12, and it's just like, oh.
Yeah, you should figure out how to make it not do that if you wanted to do.
It's the same thing, when people contact me for advice and they're like, oh, should I get a Neptune Apex? And I always say, are you a gadget person? Oh, no, I don't like gadgets. Then no. Because it's going to be an on-off switch that costs $800.
I was also going to say that, it's not an iPhone, so it's not super easy to use, but it's not the case. iPhone, you got to learn it.
Yeah.
It's not, none of these things, everything that's supposed to be plug and play, nothing is fucking plug and play. My ice machine is not plug and play. I've got to clean it, and, and your phone, they change the software, you got to learn new stuff. So this idea, I mean, even refrigerators now aren't plug and play. So this idea that this is such a fantasy that Westerners have, is that everything's supposed to work, and nothing actually works. When computers were first a thing, my old business partner, Scotty Meltzer, was visiting my parents, and this was like in the late 90s, maybe even early thousands, probably early thousands. And it was like, my dad was like, well, how come it doesn't, why does this keep happening? And Scotty is a computer scientist as well, went, computers don't work. They just don't work. They kind of work, but they don't. And it's still the fucking same. So people who, I feel bad for reefers who buy the idea that, that a controller is plug and play, or that, a test is, none of it. You have to learn all of it. There's some ins and out of everything.
That's a lot of the anger that I see about Trident. When I follow that Neptune Facebook group, and, all day long, people are like, oh, Trident.
Yeah, that's only the grumpy people
like you that have great success with them. But because a lot of these people had thought that you buy a Trident, you plug it in, and the birds start chirping.
Yeah, it's the same thing to 3D printing. Did I talk about this with you already? Or
no,
somebody
not
else?
3D printing.
It's the same fucking thing with 3D printing. People think they could buy a 3D printer and all of a sudden print stuff. And it's like, no, it's not a fucking thing from Star Trek where you walk up to it and you go, give me a cup of monkey feet, and woo, a cup of monkey feet. That's not how any of this works.
Hello, computer. Hello,
computer. Tea, Earl Grey, warm.
Is this a terrible thing to say? And I don't include myself in that. But there's so many nerdy gadgets nowadays that a lot of people don't realize that if you don't be that nerd for that gadget, it's not going to gadget.
But it's also even worse than that, right? Because the nerd you need is just to understand what's going on. Not that you, so when I did printing a couple of years ago, people were like buying stock printers and then changing them immediately. And I kind of went, I don't fucking know enough about this machine to be changing the hot end. I don't know anything. I don't know enough about printing to give a shit. Right. So I just left it all alone and got some fucking programs that work, some settings that I liked, experimented a little bit, and then off to the races. And I stopped caring about trying to get, you know, a perfectly smooth finish, which seems to me just a limit of you know, the kind of printing I'm doing. Maybe the resin printings, you can get a perfect finish now. But I looked around and understood that everyone's got layer lines and there's always an issue. And then then printing was easy after that. You know, even like complicated stuff was easy. But people who would like replace everything, it's like, well, then you got no one to talk to. You've replaced components. There's no one who can really, you can't call the company. You know, you've done weird stuff. Nobody really knows what's going on anymore. So, but if
my client haven't bought the KH-Gaurdian and then never taken the, you know, I'm not shame, but it's boggling in my head because I'm like, you bought this complicated thing, but never nerded up to it.
Yeah.
Why do you have it?
Well, that's kind of my point is either people think that it's magic out of the box, or they think they got to replace half of it because the manufacturer makes it shitty. And it's neither. It's not magic out of the box, and you don't necessarily have to replace anything. And you certainly don't have to replace anything until you understand what's going on. The nerding out is in your fucking head. You've got to understand what it's supposed to be doing and then how it's supposed to do it. I was really frustrated with Apex at the beginning, right? And then about 2 weeks later, I went, oh, the programming language is actually, it's not hard. And they've made it so much easier nowadays. But it was like, God, I got to learn this. It was like, yeah, you wanted to do stuff, you got to learn it. Yeah, your new car, you wanted to automatically adjust your seat. You got to look up how to fucking set that. It's not, you have to learn things about everything you buy. It's not magical.
And if I mean, we've kicked it, but if you're watching this and you're newer in the hobby and you're like, I don't know if I need this or that, are you willing to totally nerd out with it? If you're not, then that's not what you need right now.
You have to have some basic understanding of what you're doing. And if you add a complicated thing when you don't have a basic understanding, now you need a basic understanding of what you're doing and a basic understanding of the thing you just bought. And your head's going to explode.
At it. And you badmouth the company as if they haphazardly brought something to market that's just abject bullshit.
That Apex forum on Facebook you look at, you know, at least 80% of the problems are user error.
I know. It's just I never comment on it. I only watch it.
It's incredible to watch the postings go from this is a piece of shit to nothing because they figured out, oh, I didn't turn it on, or I had it set wrong, or I had the code. You know, it's like you gotta, and then I love people going, well, it doesn't do what I want out of the box. Yeah, it's a fucking, who the hell knows what you want it to do?
Also, whenever you invent your product and bring it to market, let us take a crack at it because that'll be cool.
Yeah, your fucking product.
Yeah.
So there. Well, that's cool. I mean, I'd be interested. I'm interested in all the other ecosystems that I'm not in. I'm interested in the Hydros. I'm interested in the Guardian. There were problems with the Guardian when it first came out that made me run away from it.
The Guardian's a little more expensive than all the other ones.
Yeah, I don't know, but I can't. You know, this is something Reef Beef could do. You know, if Reef Beef bought us a piece of equipment, we could then try it. But, you know, because I'm not going to spend my own money on a Guardian just to see. But I also don't know how useful that is. That's not our show. Our show isn't, you know, what does this piece of equipment versus that piece of equipment do? We're more meta. But let us know if that would be interesting. Let us know in the comments. You know, if we should do that for you, you know,
maybe occasionally.
Yeah.
Oh, we are recording. We're recording.
saltwateraquarium.com is our buddies because they've been with us for a long time.
It's true.
They have a mobile app that you can use to order your goods. They have 3 locations across the United States to get your products to you fast. They're big, but they're a small family-owned company. And that's what I like, because when you order from them, you can get real good customer service with that. They have a lot of online articles and online even shows that a former guest, Mark Callahan,
Lord Callahan.
They just brought in ORA livestock, fish and invertebrates.
Yeah.
They have in-house cleanup crew.
Yep. And I'm sure they've got a butt ton of sales for the holidays. So you should check them out. A butt ton. And use the link down below for saltwateraquarium.com. That way they know that we are part of them and driving people there. And also, when you fill out the thing, when you fill out your order, you can put a note in and put the most insane note over the next few months.
Like Kenneth, let your grandfather out of the closet. Reef said so.
Yeah, or make up your own. Whatever you think would make Ben and I go, oh no, that's the most insane thing anybody's ever written to order Reef Aquarium stuff. That's what we want. Saltwateraquarium.com. Check them out down there. We love you guys, and we love saltwateraquarium.com because they're really nice to us and they have good stuff.
If you love us, you love them. So give them a look.
Oh, we are recording. We're recording.
All right. Well, I'm interested to see what happens. Keep me posted about this tank and what's going on with there.
So far, so good. He's super happy because it took less than a week and his DKH is back down to normal. Did
you check it with your kit as well? His
I ran
and
out
yours?
to my truck and rechecked it with mine. It was the same thing.
So that's a good Sherlocking, Reef Sherlocking, which was going to be one of the names of this podcast, actually. The Sherlocking is important. So Ben got some weird readings at a client. And then he asked a group of people that I'm on a text group with him, and no one answered. Then he went and then he called me and everyone should do this. You should have a group of reef people you ask questions to. You should have a couple of them that you trust that know things that you can call on the phone, right? So he calls me on the phone and says, here's the situation. And it's like, oh, do you have your test kit with you? Let's rule out that it's a
same brand, same thing.
Let's just get a ballpark and rule out that, which test kit it is, which testing it is. And I think 2 test kits that show relatively the same and one that's way off. There's probably something going on with the one that's way off. So that's great. That's great sleuthing. I'm really happy with that.
I imagine it's got to be user error on his part. But it's not like anyone's saying the KH-Gaurdian sucks, but he wasn't going to get intimate with it. So it's just as well that he not use it if he's not going to.
Right. I don't know the ins and outs of setting that thing up to read it, which you need to do, and that's the other thing with these pieces of equipment. You need to know their limitations, right? I use it for trending because I know that it can bork, right? You should know that if you're whatever you're using to test, if your calcium has been 400 and then all of a sudden it's 500, you didn't add anything, you have no automated dosing, that's a testing aberration. That's, nothing changed your calcium 500 by magic overnight, right? You got to get a feel for that kind of thing. Or you do a test and your magnesium's up 100 points. It's like, well, yeah, what is the plus and minus on the magnesium kit?
150, right?
Usually, yeah, it can vary widely. So you just gotta know some shit. And testing. God, we've talked about testing. I hate testing so much.
What we're saying too is almost, and I don't know if it'll be palatable for some people. I bet you anyone watching the show, they'll get it. But being getting serious with your reef tank and taking it to a different level, and you've taken it. it sounds funny, but I'm saying anyone that's watching this damn show probably takes their reefing pretty seriously, because we're sort of niche. But I'm saying it is again, just like the piece of equipment, the reef tank itself, you don't set up a reef tank and walk. Anyone watching the show knows that. It's a level of involvement.
Yeah.
And so, it's sort of the type of people I run into that thought they were going to do it on their own. And then they meet me, I talk to them and they're like, I'm going to pay you to do it because I don't want to be that involved in it. And that's how I make money.
Even famously IKEA, that's supposed to be the easiest stuff in the world and everyone makes it themselves. Making IKEA shit work can be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So your controller for your crazy reef tank, you just get a feel for the limitations, find out what's important, and deal with that stuff. Don't automate it.
That's why Richard limits himself on some of the things that he puts on his tank, because as he proclaims all the time, is sort of a lazy reefer. And if it's something that requires you to dick with it all the time, it's just not going to work for him.
Right. But there's a learning curve as well. And here's what's going on with me today. Besides that, there hasn't been a fucking spawn yet, and it's day 13 after the full moon, which means hopefully in December there'll be a spawn, but I still have 5 more days I'm going to check. But you get a new piece of equipment, you got to learn it, right? So I love the liquid level sensors from Neptune, right?
Oh, is that the big tape thing?
That's the ruler tape thing that shows you the level of your tank, right? Or of whatever it's in. And I've been using it in some weird applications because I've got some tanks that the only water exchange through them is through a peristaltic pump in and a peristaltic pump out, right? It's both their doses, right? And I'm using the LLS as basically the overflow, right? If the water gets too high, it stops filling, right? If the water gets too low, it stops draining, the peristaltic pumps, right? I have a stupider situation where the drain peristaltic pump on this one tank is one apex and the fill is from another.
Well, that's a little sketchy.
It's a little sketchy. There's a reason to do it. I could change it, but I think we're going to be okay because I've come up with a new way to make it impossible for this tank to overflow. And let me work it out and then I'll bring it to everybody. But, so far the LLS has been set and forget and done almost everything I wanted to perfectly. It looks like I just had one go bad. This is one that traveled around my backpack for a while. So maybe it was goofy. I don't know. I'm still talking to Neptune about it, but I'm kind of excited about this new idea I had for this system where you're doing the water change because without an overflow, right? So what an overflow does is it keeps the water level in the tank consistent, right? And if you're doing a peristaltic pump for in and out, that can range up and down. I think I figured out a way to make it consistent, but I'll try it and get back to you. Hopefully I'll remember. If I don't remember, somebody let me know because I'm.
Oh, wait, the tank doesn't have an overflow?
No, I've got 2 tanks that are on the floor. So an overflow, they're not high enough for an overflow to actually get the overflow back to any kind of sump.
I guess I would think that the surface scum would get a little weird in there.
Nah, you keep the water moving, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, there's several things you have to consider, right? The surface scum is one of them. What are you going to do about that? You just need some more surface tension breaking, right? And there's no way for detritus, but we talked about this the other day. There is no way for all the detritus settles in there. There's no way that the peristaltic pump going out is pulling any significant amount of detritus back to your LLS, your LSS, your life support systems, right? Yeah. So you do have to do a couple of things differently, So I'm a big fan of those polishing filters. Oh, yeah. I mean, but it's the same thing as the tanks behind me, right? These don't get a whole lot of flow through them either.
Yeah, that's true.
So I got to do stuff to deal with that. But
which is cool. You just crank in the circulation, and
then,
the flow through is very minimal.
And the flow changes. Maybe we'll get to flow. So it's just understanding reefing and what you want from it and what you have to do to be able to get what you want. Flow is really interesting. We talked an episode or two ago about pumping, keeping the flow going on so your stuff actually gets the mechanical filter. And I posit that there's not much that actually gets out. I think most of it, now that most people aren't doing 5,000 gallons an hour through their tank, because who cares? I think we're all making mistakes by trying to help the biological filtration. I think we got to let the biological filtration do its thing more.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think as far as detritus and breaking down fish waste and food and whatnot, like you can't expect that much of that is making it down into the filter. And
Right.
and I also feel like the lion's share is just bacterial action.
And I was thinking about why I like feeding, why I don't like the idea of adding nitrate and phosphate to raise up nitrate and phosphate, because I want to feed things with mouths.
Yeah.
So I dig the idea of putting a bunch of food in with everything with a mouth, including my cleanup crews. They then get to eat. And if you're just putting in nitrate and phosphate, my animals don't really eat that. That's
That's
I'm
true.
not really sure what's going on with that. I mean, I guess corals must be uptaking it through the water, but it still doesn't seem like it's food, you know? But I don't know. If you guys, anybody listening has any idea, please let us know, because we're a little confused.
Oh, we are recording. We're recording.
Hey, Richard, this show is powered by PolypLab,
It sure is.
and I'd like to talk about the Genesis block.
Well, no one can stop you, Ben. It is your show.
So, a lot of people use like, good biomedia, somewhere. And there's been these other ones and they still work great, but these ones that get crumbly over time. This is the PolypLab Genesis block. And it's very like, can you knock it on a table or your head? Or it's not a crumbly type. It's very solid. It's not going to crumble on you. PolypLab Genesis block, put it in a high flow area of your sump, a baffle, an overflow, put it on your grandmother's head, but it works really well.
Yeah, I can only anecdotally say that it worked for me. I put them in each of my tanks and I seem to have less of an issue with local nutrients. No, right? Because my system doesn't turn over 1 million gallons of water through every tank.
Yeah.
So having some local is nice. And that it's this size and that it is hard and not crumbly makes me really like it a lot. So they got a bunch of other products. We are happy to be Polyp by PowerLab and powered by PolypLab.
Oh, we are recording. We're recording.
Book
call it
corner,
something?
corner of books with Ben and Rich. So why are we talking about books?
We're talking about books because, well, we had an episode with Jason Langer and he was saying people don't read enough books. And I've always said that. And then, I'm always trying to come up with content for the Facebook page. And so I threw a question on there. I was like, hey, I had a cool idea. Originally, I don't know how you want to attack this, because originally I was just going to put like a book a day on the Facebook page. And then Richard was sort of saying, like, we have to have it work for us. So we should do this on the videos. Right?
Yeah.
So if you hate that idea, then hate Richard.
Well, if we want it to be useful, it should be in the videos because people don't read anymore. So if you put it on the fucking place where people are going to read it, what the hell is what's the point?
Exactly.
All right. So we decided that we'll try this for a while and we'll each do a book and see how that goes. So what book do you have, sir?
Look at this.
Eric Borneman, Aquarium Corals. I have that book in the other room.
Put out by Microcosm. Here's the back of it. This is a really good book. And it was funny because since we talked about doing this, I went and dug through, I have hundreds of books. And I started flipping through this. And I'm going to leave it out because I was like, son of a bitch, I forgot. This is an incredible book. And all these times that I've been like, looking around for stuff on the internet. And it's like, I forgot myself that I have this giant book collection. But man, it really goes off into it. Let me hit. It's got a foreword by Charlie Veron.
Are you going to read the whole book to us now?
No. but it's got a whole, it goes crazy. It's got, anatomy of corals. It talks about zooxanthellae. It talks about food and feeding. Talks about taxonomy, which is probably all wrong nowadays, because this book came out in the early 2000s. Now it's got a part on conservation, about coral health, care and handling. It's got a section on water chemistry, husbandry, but the big chunk of it is coral identification. Now it's sort of like old school photos, but it's more natural looking. And it goes through, it's like, genus, symphilia, identification, natural location. It's great. It looks like most of the photos are not aquarium photos. They're photos out in the actual wild.
I'll wait till you're done.
No. The one cool thing, when I first moved from the Dallas area to the Houston area in the year 2000, I first started working at this store called Fish Ranch. And I swear to God, I think it was like the second day I ever worked there. This dude comes in with a glass tank and is like, "Can you drill this for me?" And I was like, I'd already been doing this for like 10 years at that point. I was like, "Yeah." And so he's like, "I'll be back later to pick it up." And I had no clue. And then he comes back and he goes to pay for it. And I see on his credit card, it said Bornemann. But the thing was, I was a young dude. I think I was 25 years old, but this dude was younger than me. So in the very late 90s, I remember this real skinny book that was sort of printed badly. That was like Coral Identification. Is from the late 90s.
Yeah.
It was by Bornemann. And I used to love that. I don't think I own it anymore. And I used to love that book. And I was like, "Are you Bornemann, Eric Bornemann?" He's like, "Yeah, that's me." And I was like, "I thought you were older than me." And he's like, "Why?" And I was like, "Well, you wrote a book." Because I was only 25 years old. Apparently he wrote that first one when he was in his early 20s.
Yeah.
But so the funny thing is, I look in this book and see this glass sump right here.
Yeah.
I drilled that motherfucker.
That's the one you drilled?
I drilled that motherfucker. And I had no idea that I was I'm not in this book, but I'm just saying, I was flipping through and I was like, I remember that tank. That's the one I drilled holes in the back of the store for him.
That's great.
And so this book, it's an incredible book. It's still valid.
It's a useful book for getting your feet wet with Coral ID. It's accessible. It's interesting. It's got good pictures and good descriptions. And it's not overly textbook-like.
No, it's very digestible.
It's
Even the things
with
water chemistry, and then the things in taxonomy, he's writing it like he's sitting there talking to you. It's not like a dissertation or something.
Yeah, it's not like the Varon books.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay, good. Eric Bormann's Aquarium Corals. My book is not a book because I'm an asshole. My book is a magazine.
Oh, there you go. Shill.
Well, if I had this month's issue where my tank is in it, but all I had is the spawning issue, which my article is in it. Actually, I found a whole treasure trove of these upstairs in my attic. I've got like 100. This is Coral Magazine. It's there's only 2 magazines out now in the States for in print magazine. This is the one that's mostly subscription based instead of advertiser driven, but it's got ads in it too. And the thing I love about this magazine, not just that it covers my stuff, is that it covers stuff that's not going to be in books, right? It covers new stuff. If you want to know about spawning coral, I was talking with Jamie Craggs about this. It's like, get this issue. This issue's got 3 articles about coral spawning. There are no books about it yet. These are the newest, most on it articles about coral spawning. This is me and Carrie and Jamie, right? So this exists. You can still get it. You can get online versions of it if you subscribe, right? And then there's all kinds of great stuff. There's cool pictures. There's cool ads, so you can see, what's going on. But it's at your leisure. It's not like you're sitting on the toilet looking at your phone and you think, I'll get back to that. there is something about having this physical stuff in front of you that gives you a different experience than online. And it's got stuff from people you know, it's got stuff from people you don't know. You can talk to these people if you want to.
Oh my God, you know what we are? We're aquatic hipsters.
We're aquatic hipsters. There's news. There's all kinds of interesting stuff in Coral Magazine, and I suggest everyone get a subscription to it. It's just a cool thing, and you know, the new one's got some a refugium or ATS information in it that I desperately want to read to see how close it is to what I understand, and if there's anything that would make me change my positions. Oh, I was like, wow, that I recognize that picture. It's because I took it. So yeah, Coral Magazine is what I'm saying. So get a subscription to Coral Magazine. Why? It's your hobby. This is what's going on.
Oh, we are recording. We're recording.
Richard, Champion Lighting has been around for forever and one day.
One day.
They're
Yeah,
they're in the Northeast coast, and they have a lot of product lines that are specific to them. Captivate. There's also the adhesive coming out, C-Tac.
Yep. And the Captivate has got a bunch of foods in it that I'm looking forward to trying and adding to my feeding regime or regimen. Regimen is probably the right word. And the C-Tac, I just got word that a package is on the way for me for both of these things. So we can actually give you some definite feedback on what we think about these products. They all look like they're going to be great, and I'm not clearly we think they're going to be good, or we would not have them on as a sponsor. So if you're looking to buy weird stuff, or you're looking to buy these cool things that only they carry, check out Champion Lighting Supply and use the link down below.
Oh, we are recording. We're recording.
You and I almost got into an argument today on the Discord about cleaning pumps.
Did we?
Yeah, but I didn't say anything because you said something.
Then how can I know?
Well, I'm telling you right now. You said something like, if you don't clean your pumps, you can damage them.
It can.
And you said it in that way, and I wanted to go, how? Tell me how? Well, I mean, I understand if you get a zip tie in a pump and it stops it from moving, it can damage it.
This happened not that long ago, and I had to get from a CJ.
I just talked to Steve Berlin the other day.
Finally, because I got off the phone with him.
And he thanked me for all the free advertising. He didn't actually, but apparently he's got a new product coming out that I'm going to love.
So I'm saying this is sort of coming out of my ass, but I've seen.
See, you've already qualified. You started with it can damage a pump, and now you went to it absolutely can, and now you're like, well, now I'm talking out of my ass.
Well, every time I've let a circulation pump, not a main pump, a circular in the tank wave maker pump,
an in-tank water motion device.
There you go. Are you happy, Mr. Ross?
Never happy.
You let it get gunked up. The impeller always gets jacked up. So I don't know if it's having trouble with the fluid dynamics inside of it passing water through. Maybe it's a heat issue. Maybe it's a pressure issue.
Does the magnet expand?
Coraline or nuisance algae grow all over the intakes, and it just become filthy. And the impellers always shit the bed.
The magnet shit the bed, or the shaft?
Well, never the motor itself. It's always the impeller. The impeller, I don't know if it inside, if it moves it a little and it rubs it, and then heat messes up a magnet. I don't know.
So I'm trying to understand what the problem you're seeing is. A problem with the magnet.
The impeller goes bad, and then you just get a new impeller, put it in there, clean.
Okay, but it's not the blades of the impeller.
No, however, and CJ, hold on to your seatbelts. I took a picture, and I'll put the picture right here. Just today, I had to replace. Steve was Johnny on the spot. I had a Voyager 7, and it stopped working, so he sent me a new impeller. But this one was weird. It's it has 3 blades on it. Yeah. And I took it apart today, and the blades all flew out into the aquarium, so it just blew the blades off.
Are the blades supposed to come apart?
No, I mean, it is plastic. I don't know what type it is, but the little blades just fell out of the Voyager.
So that's a brand new one, or that's the old?
It's only like 4 months old, but I let that pump get filthy with nuisance algae. It got sort of clogged and then stopped. So it's
okay. So
clogged.
All right, we might be talking.
I know I'm drawing some like weak conclusions.
Yeah, but that's the kind of thing that makes me insane.
Yeah,
because it starts there, and then it turns into like not even a degree of telephone, like half a degree of telephone. Ben says that if you don't clean your pumps, you're going to damage them, so we have to clean them every 2 weeks. That's
I never said 2 weeks.
I didn't say you did, but I'm telling you that's how
that's what it turns into.
When you say things definitively,
yeah,
it becomes the word from on high.
That's true.
And if we're going to use the word from on high, we should get it for free sex or money. We should not do it for information about cleaning pumps. We should use our powers for better things than that. I'm
not using my powers for sex.
So I know magnets go bad, right? Magnets can swell and scrape and, but to tell you the truth, in the last 5 years, I haven't seen that as a problem at all. And we'll get to your C-chain in a second. I remember it used to be a big thing because they used to get hotter inside, and then calcium would precipitate out, and then it would lock up the pump, and then it would just sit there and heat because then it's just a heater. And then the magnets would swell and get goofy, and sometimes you couldn't get them out anymore, or they would get scraped up and you just toss it and get a new thing. I think the pump designs are much better than they were 10 years ago, and it just kind of doesn't happen that much anymore. I can't think of, I had one.
The weird thing, I don't know what the technical name for it, but all pumps now have that channel in the impeller well that it allows water to circulate back there.
Yeah.
I knew the technical name of it, but pumps used to not have that.
I think, letting a pump get so dirty that it seizes, that's a problem, right? But, I sometimes sometimes there's algae growing on the blades of the impeller on some of my pumps. And, I clean it sometimes, and then it's more flow for a little while, or it's more flow, but it doesn't really seem to, I don't know. Like I said, it's like a filter sock. If you don't clean it regularly, then what happens with the irregular cleaning is you probably are going to have to make some adjustment to the pump, because if it's got its bacterial coating on it, it's moving less water than if you have that knot on there. But that develops pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, oh, you're like in Matt Wandell territory now. It's like you and I, we disagree, but we don't really disagree. We've just said words differently.
No, because I totally agree with you. As a matter of fact, that's what the first thing I was ever at before I met you. I was reading your articles because I was like, oh shit, because I totally agree with you. And I do it all the fucking time, make definitive statements. But the thing is, why I don't get mad when you point them out to me is because, and hey, I'm not an ass kisser. I'm just saying you're fucking right. Because I can't
ass kisser. I'm fucking right in this episode. Last episode, my tank stunned you when you saw it in person. You're such an ass kiss.
I never should have said you.
It totally works for me.
You fucking turkey.
It sounds to me like if that impeller broke like that, could a snail have gotten in there?
No, because
it's way in the Voyager.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see if there's filamentous algae, it could, and the pump wants to go, it could crack it.
But it's not that one data point. It's just when I get real lazy on circulation pumps and they get covered in crap, they always seem to have pumps. But yeah, I can't make that statement. Like, if you let it get dirty, it will take 2 months off of the lifespan of the impeller. Like, that's silly talk.
That's the only thing we were going to fight about, was that, because it was the same kind of statement as you said about the Coraline booster. It was like, this works. This is the truth.
Oh my God, Richard, real quick, because I know this is in the vein of what we're talking about. you know, several months ago, I went back and did a second round to 4
Yeah.
other tanks. 2 of the tanks that didn't do shit.
See?
The Coraline booster.
See? See?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. It definitely worked on those tanks that I used at that time. It definitely did that. But I see now to where it's not a sure shot. You're not just going to buy it and for sure Coraline's going to show up. Perhaps I did something wrong, even though I followed the directions exactly.
Yeah.
But it's just 2 of the tanks. Now it's been, you know, a couple months and nothing's shown up. So,
You know, I'm dancing around like I'm vindicated. I don't want to be vindicated. I want all that shit to work, and I want Ben to be right. I've just been around, you know, since I started at the Houston Zoo in 1956.
definitive statements will get you in trouble.
Yeah. And, you know, I make them sometimes. I'm sure I do. I try not to, but I try to qualify the stuff. So there. Well, I still think with another tank, you should do just some scraping of Coraline and try that. I'm speaking of Coraline, I've got so much shit. I'm going to scrape Coraline off when I settle corals. So great.
Pull it in a bottle. Richard Ross's Coraline.
You know, I'm doing that thing about the benthic succession with putting a frag plug in a week. I realized it's not the greatest one because herbivores get to it.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing crazy algae. So when it's halfway through, I think I'm gonna fence it off. We'll see what happens. All right, great. So we're not really fighting. So what do I think about cleaning your pumps? You know, I don't know, man. I haven't cleaned a return pump since you were here.
Return your main pump down in the sump?
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I don't clean those.
Right. You know, I lost a gyre 2 years ago, so I replaced it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. It's like the price of admission.
It's a classic juice worth the squeeze. How much time are you spending monthly taking your pumps apart and cleaning them versus in 3 years buying a new pump? Now that's not the same for everybody. I'm an asshole about the thing like that because I am a lazy. But
but there's a secondary point in there about the gyres. Like gyres tend to have some other little pieces and parts. And I've got to be honest with you, like every time that you clean that gyre is a potential time to like, you could miss an O-ring or lose it there.
Yeah. So I will never take a gyre apart, right? I dicked with that. I learned that lesson so you don't have to. Maybe that's what a lot of this show is about is, you know, don't do it this way unless you're trying to learn it all, right? So anyway, you know, because the gyre was like, oh, you could just buy the motor. Remember all that? It was like, oh my God, this is the most finicky piece of shit to work on.
New grommets.
Fuck it. Don't take your gyre apart to clean it. Drop it in a bucket or a sweater box of water with citric acid and let it run.
For sure.
Yeah. When I say clean, you know, with the wave pumps, I can pop the cage off and jack them off apparently and hit them with a toothbrush.
If it was a beluga whale.
Hit them with, I wish. The behavior. And brush them with a toothbrush, or I'll take the whole pump out and sit it in the bucket. If you know, the last time I did this was in here was like a year and a half ago, but I have a virtual outlet set up for pump cleaning. So I just take the pump out, set that virtual outlet on, drop the pump in the bucket, let it sit for half an hour, then change to the next pump. So in a day, all I have to, I can get through these 8 pumps if I want to, which I don't really want to.
When I'm putting a system together, I try to do that too, like with these Voyagers, and it's just a freestanding tank. So I have it to where it's easy to get to the magnet and everything. So I just have a bucket of like bleach water because on that tank, it's a nuisance algae, not necessarily Coraline algae. And I'll just take it, I'll turn it off, take it, put it on that bucket right there. But I haven't unplugged it or taken it away anywhere. You know, just have it run, then turn it back on, have it run in the bleach water, and then clean it.
Yeah. Bleach water?
Bleach water for a specific purpose, because it was like organic, like algae like that.
Gotcha.
Not Coraline.
Gotcha.
The tank isn't mature enough to where it's like having a problem with Coraline.
Gotcha.
Oh, we are recording. We're recording.
Hey, beefers. This is the weirdest show in the world because we love just talking to you guys about whatever the fuck we're talking about, but we also like trying to make it more than just two idiots babbling about crap. So we thank you so much for all your support. Sharing the videos out onto different forums, that really helps us a lot. You know, hitting like and subscribe, that helps us a lot. You know, buying us a beer on our website, check out the link below or right here. I think Snowman will put it, you know, or becoming a member. That really helps us out and allows us to keep going. You know, we're going to have to buy a new computer coming up soon to be able to edit the show. So it's good stuff. And we couldn't do it without you guys. And thank you so much. If you become a member, you get access to some special channels on the Discord and you get merch discounts. So pretty much if you want to do merch, becoming a member is worth it because you get a better deal just from becoming a member. Ben is wearing the Trucker Tammy hat, which is a new hat that we have available. And basically what we're saying is we really appreciate you and you helping us out. Ben, jump in here.
I love you guys.
Right
and
on.
Gals and non-binary pals.
Happy fucking end of the year holidays from Reef Beef.
Oh, we are recording. We're recording.
Oh, I got my tip. I got my tip of the day.
Do it.
If you've got magnets holding your pumps up, glue a piece of string or rope to the magnet that's outside the tank, and then tie that somewhere higher up so you can grab it. So if you pull the pump off and the magnet comes off, you can still get it without like going, oh shit, like me, if they drop behind these tanks behind me, I got to go fishing with a metal fucking stick to get it to stick to. But starting with the new Nero J-Bow ripoff I'm using, I've got something glued to the magnet so I can just pull that pump off. The magnet stays there.
Old school maintenance guy in the mid 90s or late 90s. Tunza made pretty much the only strong cleaning magnet back then.
Yeah.
It was before that they had stuff to float, so it had a little eyelet and it had a string that we would tie to something because it like got lost in an aquarium.
Yeah.
That's sort of a similar
Otherwise
thing.
it's a pain if your tank's against the wall and you're trying to put a magnet thing is. The other cool thing is you can use, if you use a stick, you know, not a string, you can see how deep it is, right? And where the magnet's supposed to go. And then you can just lower that magnet there and bring your pump towards it between the glass and it'll sync up in your set.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing is overflow boxes, magnets in an overflow box.
Yeah.
A tight overflow box. I've done that before.
Oh man.
You're like scraping yourself with vermeted snails and stuff in there.
And that's where the new pump in the display is. It's inside of the overflow box.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to go fishing in there. So I used a piece of rigid airline tubing.
Oh, okay.
And bent it so it hooks on my jump guard.
What did you glue it to the magnet with? Silicone?
Super glue.
Super glue.
Super glue.
Okay.
Oh, we got to do a thing about super glue. People don't understand how super glue works. But that's another somebody please
say, let's talk about future shows.
Someone remind me I want to do something about super glue. I talked about it on a forum and on the Discord. I done an old article that explains what to do to make super glue work. So it's not magic. It's just it's like everything else. You can't just put super glue on it and go and expect it to work. There's a little bit of a method to make your life
sometimes
easier.
You get mad when you feel like we're not reinventing the wheel, but like bringing up old stuff sometimes. But it's like I told you, there's so many new people coming into the hobby, people leaving, new people coming in. So you do have to repeat yourself a little bit.
I get that, but you know, my feeling was you write a book or an article and then it's there and then people can read it fucking forever.
No one fucking reads it.
Why did I do all the fucking work?
Because they want the juice that's the easiest to squeeze. They want to log on to dip-de-doo, howdy-do forum.
But it's
and
the
like,
same-
how do I do this? And the first person that answers, they're like, okay.
Don't do a fucking epoxy super glue sandwich. It's the dumbest thing in the world.
It's not even tasty.
And if you want to know why it's dumb, you'll have to remind us in the comments because we're not talking about that today.
Enough about future shows.
I've got 2 beefs and then we're done.
Do a beef.
The first beef I have is people are still using Vibrant.
Are you fucking serious?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I don't even know if we should talk about that, but it's like, it's an algicide. I mean, I guess I read somebody who had a specific use, but if I want to keep corals, I'm not putting an algicide in my tank.
What if you're using it in a fish-only system?
I'm not sure. I think there have been reports about fish dying with it too, but I might be talking out of my pee hole.
But then the other thing, if we had that show where we found out that like chemically it's real close to algae fix,
Yeah.
and algae fix costs a hell of a lot less than Vibrant, it almost seems like, and hey, Vibrant, come after us, but I'm just saying, it just seems like they're putting algae fix in a bottle, a cooler looking bottle, and saying Vibrant and charging like a lot more. It really seems like what's happening.
It certainly does seem like that. We're never going to find out, right? They're never going to come back and go, oh yeah, we got busted by the EPA. Ho
Or reef beef. We got busted by reef beef.
Not going to happen. But it seems to me, once we've discovered that something is not what it says on the bottle, and we kind of know what it is, and we know that it can kill your stuff, you're going to have to convince me a lot. You know, it's like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to use this aluminum stand in my tank, even though I know the aluminum is going to kill the corals. But, you know, it's just, it doesn't make any sense to me.
But wait, and I'm not wishing harm, you know, financial harm on anyone, but like, so that you are, that company that makes Vibrant, they didn't sort of like sneak into the shadows and disappear?
I don't know. I'm not interested enough to follow up on what they're doing.
Yeah.
They were a maintenance company and then they had this product. I assume they're still a maintenance company, but you know, whatever. If I was going to start tracking down maintenance companies I thought were sketchy, I'd start with yours. That's our show. Thank you all for listening. My name is Ben.
And my name is Rich.
And this is Reef Beef. We are proud to be sponsored by saltwateraquarium.com, Champion Lighting, and powered by PolypLab. We'll see you next time. This is an episode of Reef Beef, hosted by Rich Ross and Ben Johnson. Produced by Rich Ross and Snowman, edited and directed by Snowman. Thanks to our gold and prime level beefers, Scott O, Ryan H, Rich P, Scott C, Corey, and Pedro. All right, baby. Next episode is all you.
You won't even be here. It'll just be all me.
I won't even, it'll be you and fucking Telegram.
Yep. We'll just both probably won't even be wearing clothes.
Yeah. Hey, we're dressed for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So if you don't like reef keeping with foul language, don't listen to this podcast. If you do love Christmas and Thanksgiving, just turn the volume off while you touch yourself. This is Reef Beef. And I think last time we burped.
I should just become a human fucking robot.
You are a human fucking robot. Don't
we record? Oh, we are recording.
We're recording. My name is Rich.
And my name is Ben.
Oh, we got to do the disclaimer, don't we?
Yeah, we could.
All right, that's fucking. And our microphones are not cheap, by the way.
Oh my God. I would just say this before we leave. After having Jim on the show, dude, his microphone is way nicer than ours. His voice quality.
Oh, when you listen to it?
Mine sounded tinny, and then he talking, it sounded like warm and deep.
Yeah, well, we can get new microphones. These were the entry-level mics. You're such a fucking... That's certainly not going to help as you deep throat the mic. You're not even deep throating it. You're just...
I'm like, Richard, these microphones are terrible.